My name is Pam. I'm going to be your nurse for today. Today I am going to be performing hand hygiene. I'm going to check the two identifiers with the patient's name and for the patient to state his or her date of birth. I'm also going to do a 360 privacy. I'm also going to ask any history of strokes, seizures, trauma, anything with neurosurgery in the past, anything with dizziness, any headaches, any weakness, numbness, or tingling. Also, I want to assess the patient's, and I'm going to note that whether it's +1. Also, I want to ask the patient about their mental status. I want to observe the posture of the patient and the grooming. I note that +1. I want to assess the behavior of to make sure our patient is conscious, alert, and responsive. I'm going to note that as +5. And then I want to orient the patient whether or not, I want the patient to verify their name again, place and time that the incident happened, and what was the situation. Also, I want to assess the speech of the patient by evaluating clarity and, with the conversation, the appropriateness of the conversation. Also, I'm going to assess the mood for the patient. And when the patient is determining their mood, I want to ask the patient how do they feel in the conversation, and I will note that 1 and observe if the expression matches the state mood of the patient. I also want to go down to the motor and cerebellar function. So I want to be performing the tests as far as direct pupillarity responses by shining the light into each eye and observing for any constriction. I will note that as a 2, whether it's a 2, 1, or 5. I do want to note that. I want to know if the pupils are consensual pupillarity. I want to shine that light in one eye and observing the opposite for any constrictions, and consensually when one is stimulated. I would note that as well too. So I also want to assess rapid alternating like the movements of the patient when they put the hands down or on their laps, and quickly flip them back and forth. I will also have the patient finger to finger coordination by having the patient touch each finger to the thumb, rapid succession bilaterally. I also want the finger to the nose. As far as the patient, having a patient extend the arm and touch I want them to touch their index finger to their nose and then bring back the examiner's finger and just repeatedly bilateral. I also want to assess the head to skin coordination by having the patient place their heel on the opposite knee and run it down to the chin to the ankle, repeating bilaterally. I'm going to note that +1. I want to assess the gait by observing the patient walking straight in a line, that is, and noting if any unsteadiness or deviations. Also, I want to assess the tandem walking, like if the patient, the walk heel to the toe, walk in a straight line, any missteps or loss of balance. I also want to assess the Romberg test by having a patient stand with the feet together and eyes closed for 10 seconds, noting any swaying or loss of balance. I'm going to note that or stand close. I'm going to stand close to support if needed to the patient. And I also want to do the sensory function by assessing anything randomly as if, I'm applying a sharp and dull end of a broken tongue blade to the patient's extremities bilaterally. Asking the patient to identify sensation as sharp or dull to me. I want to assess light touch by just gently stroking the patient skin with a cotton wisp in the arms, legs, hands, and feet bilaterally. And then my post-procedure, I also want to document anything that was found abnormal, with the patient's skin, with the cotton wisp in the arms, legs, hands, feet, and bilaterally. Note that as a 1. Again, I'm going to document any abnormal findings to the doctor. Thank you.